Well, we are here. Good to see you. Good to be seen on this Saturday morning live on the Sean Starr Show. Good to be with you, everybody. The Montreal Canadiens coming off that 4-2 loss at Chicago, ending for what was the second time this season the Montreal Canadiens have had a 3-game winning streak and cough it up in a 4-2 loss to Chicago. And it's a frustrating team. It definitely is a frustrating team. I get it. You get it. The Montreal Canadiens want to be in the mix. They want to talk about being in the mix. They want to play like they're in the mix. How do they handle their business against the Florida teams, come back to beat Vegas when down 2-0, and then ultimately lose despite all the shots, the expected goals for, the heat map, all of that stuff in favor of the Canadiens, but unable to beat Chicago as the Blackhawks double up the Canadiens in a 4-2 final. More on that in a second. Let's get into some promo business before we move on here. Don't forget, you can find the Sean Starr Show online at theshawnstarshow.com. with, of course, premium apparel for both men's and women's. You want to get into the women's wear, we can absolutely talk about that here in a second. In the car with Star, women's V-neck stuff. Sizes small and large, obviously still available. If you want to get into the men's stuff, we have XL, XXX, medium still available in premium garments for men's and women's as we're celebrating the old brand, the In the Car with Star brand. Don't forget, I want to talk about the YouTube channel for a second, the Sean Starr Show at youtube.com. Thank you all so much for your passionate support of this project of mine. I hope so far things are looking pretty good. I spent the better part of my holiday break off TSN 690 upgrading the home studio, so to speak. The lighting is better. The internet connection seems to be a lot more stable. And now, I gotta say, liking life so far, so good. So hit me up in the comments if you're liking what you're seeing so far. And while I have your attention, don't forget, when it comes to the Sean Starr Show, theshawnstarshow.com, we're also offering members-only content for less than $3 a month. We can have early access to all my videos. I generally produce my content and release it 24 hours before it goes public, so you have a chance to get an early look at this. Also, members-only live chats, members-only comment section, and chat rooms. So lots to get involved with to keep up to speed on the Sean Starr Show with YouTube. And a big thank you, of course, again, to everybody that has helped make my YouTube project look good and appealing, and the numbers are growing quickly, and I have you guys to thank for that. And I think I'm going to do some content on the challenges and the obstacles. If you're into the YouTube space and it's something that's interesting to you, maybe I can help you kind of get there faster. As I talk about often with my friends, I find that I've attended YouTube University, where I've been studying whether it's software, hardware, photoshopping, headline writing, understanding how to, I guess, get in the YouTube algorithm. I think I've done a good job of that, to the point where, I'll be honest with you, it took me about 5 weeks, just a shade shorter of 5 weeks, to fully monetize my channel. That means I got 1,000 subs. I have over 4,000 watch hours, and I did that in about a month. And I think I can help you get there too, with some of the tricks of the trade that I've learned, and how to build your channel up from a small channel to where, you know, you're growing, and hopefully one day you'll get that direct deposit from YouTube Canada into your checking account. And I think I can help you get there. You can be a member of the Sean Starr Show for less than $3 a month on my YouTube channel, and I think I can help you grow monetarily and maybe even get you paid through YouTube. And I've learned some pretty valuable tricks, whether it's through free photoshopping tools, free streaming software, and I'm not talking like you don't have to pay the monthlies, man. Like, you don't have to go into debt and hope to recover and stuff like that. I've learned a lot, and I think I can share some of that with you. Let's see what some of the chat is talking about here. I wouldn't judge the Habs being ready for that main event against Chicago. Thank you for that. All excuses for the Montreal Canadiens in losing that game to Chicago. And listen, that was a very frustrating game on a Friday night to lose that game to Chicago for all the goodwill that this team has generated in the wins over the Panthers, the Lightning, the Vegas Golden Knights, how they came from behind to beat Vegas. And Montreal today, looking at the overall NHL standings, let's take a look at that quickly here, where Montreal had an opportunity because, this team, it's for me, it really is all about opportunities for the Montreal Canadiens. Talk about where the Habs are, right? Like, look, here are the NHL standings today. Okay, so Montreal still a point up on Detroit, 4 points clear on the miserable Buffalo Sabres. My goodness gracious. So who cares about the Atlantic Division? The top three teams. Have you noticed that Toronto Maple Leafs are pulling a Nikita Kucherov Tampa Bay Lightning with Austin Matthews on LTIR? Tell me the Maple Leafs aren't taking a page out of the Nikita Kucherov, Mark Stone, Vegas Golden Knights. But let's shelf my guy because Austin Matthews, come playoff time, hasn't really shown us yet. So who cares about the Maple Leafs? They suck. They're probably not going to do anything of substance. Let's talk about the Montreal Canadiens, the team everybody cares about. So they're the Lightning, 42 points, the number one wildcard team in the East. Here come the Ottawa Senators, losers of 2 in a row. They have 40 points, the same for Crosby and his Pittsburgh Penguins. Now look, if you notice here, all these teams in the streak column, losers of 2 in a row Lightning, losers of 2 in a row Senators, losers of 2 in a row Penguins. Columbus, Philadelphia, and the Canadiens have all lost their last game. And that's where the frustration comes down for me. The frustration of the Montreal Canadiens not seizing the moment, not seizing the opportunity. How they can look the way they did against the Florida teams. Now, granted, Vegas to me was a kind of come home moment where I noticed considerable more jump out of the Montreal Canadiens in Florida than I did against Vegas. But hard work, timely goal scoring, and good goaltending can steal you a win. It didn't happen. It happened for Chicago, losers of 5 in a row. Look, I mean, the Blackhawks are like the worst team in hockey, okay? San Jose's miserable. Buffalo's miserable. But the Chicago Blackhawks have had 3 wins in their last 9 games. They have 4 wins in 10. They had lost 5 in a row. And yeah, they got good goaltending. They got timely stops. The Canadiens fired, 40 pucks at Chicago on Friday night and lost in a 4-2 final. But it was a moment to seize. It was an opportunity, I believe, lost. And now they move on to play at Colorado on Saturday night at 7. Listen to it on TSN 690. And we'll be back tomorrow to take a look at that game and also dip our toes into some NFL Week 18 waters, which I will do here today with some Saturday action for you. But come back tomorrow. We'll have an opportunity to recap the Canadiens and Avalanche game and look at the final regular season of NFL Sunday. As the chats are coming in, ready for the next step or not, how would you know? Well, that's a fair point. It's a fair question. I don't really know anything, to be honest with you. I really don't know anything. I watch the games just as you do, my friend. And ready to take the next step, how would I know? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you a little bit. I've been watching hockey for a while. I don't know how long you've been watching hockey, but most of my viewers have been watching hockey for a long time, and they don't really throw out asinine comments like that. How would I know? The reason you know is the same reason you know why the team hasn't quit on MSL. It's the reason you know why the team is together, right? You look for little signs, little breadcrumbs in a trail that can lead you to the promised land, And when I watch the Canadiens come out and celebrate goals or celebrate teammates' achievements on the ice, it says something to me. And for some of the detractors, whether it's in print or on the French side or the Anglo side in media here in Montreal, talking about MSL's a loser, MSL's a peewee coach, can't do this, can't do that. Couple of things there. I don't know Martin St. Louis, but I do know how a guy like Martin St. Louis got to become a Hall of Fame player through hard work, through perseverance, through pushing through the doubters. And when I look at Martin St. Louis and I look at the Montreal Canadiens, this is a team I believe today is a very strong together team. They want to play and compete and win with Martin St. Louis. And I apply that logic to the Montreal Canadiens. And my belief, are they ready or not to take the next step? And there are a couple of things. We can break this down even further if you want. Like, winning solves everything. When we're talking about a team with good vibes, feeling good about themselves, we're talking about a team that's probably winning some games, So I like to look for leadership through adversity, turbulent times. What's the attitude like? Who's saying what? How do they look when they say it? What's the tone of voice? So on and so forth. And for me, it's all very positive in that regard. Leads me down the path to believe that the Canadiens are a very tight together team, okay? Despite the lack of consistent success, especially in the first month of the season where they crapped the bed. And they've been a much better team since Patrick Laine has been there. I think they're winning like almost at 600% of their games, okay? So 6 out of every 10 games the team has been winning since Patrick Laine came back into the lineup. And yes, I understand he wasn't there Friday in Chicago. Nice to see Michael Pezzetta back in the mix for a minute. Mike, you can pass the puck every now and again. It's okay. But when you put those little signs together that leadership is intact, the message isn't being drowned out or tuned out, that this team is still immature, and they still have immature tendencies, like failing, as I mentioned already a couple of times, failing to seize the moment, failing to grasp the opportunity. Like, in the best case scenario, the Canadiens win 4-2 in Chicago, now have their longest winning streak of the season at 4 games going into Colorado. But that didn't happen. They lost the game they probably felt very confident going into. Blackhawks bad, Blackhawks full of drama, Connor Bedard, not looking like Connor McDavid, and fans in Chicago are a little bit paranoid there, and firing coaches, front office drama, losers of 5 in a row, and the Canadiens, had they won that game, would have been 1 point back of Ottawa for the wild card, second wild card in the NHL's Eastern Conference, 3 points back of Tampa in this hypothetical that they win in Chicago and not lose. So instead, they're 3 points out. Not to say they're not in the mix, but maybe it's a hot take to say that, the Canadiens aren't going to make the playoffs this year. I don't see them making the playoffs this year. And I've chosen to read a lot into how they lost in Chicago on Friday night. Like, if you're feeling good, Cole Caulfield, this has been imprinted in my brain. Cole Caulfield wanted to see his team go on a run. When he said that, the Canadiens won 3 in a row. And then they lost that Columbus game and then turned it around right out of the Christmas break, winning against the Panthers, winning against the Lightning, coming back to beat Vegas, and then losing to the lowly Chicago Blackhawks. Have we taken a look at the Montreal Canadiens schedule through January? Can we do that here quickly together? Like, this is what I'm talking about when I say opportunities wasted. Sam Montembeault has started 3 games in a row. I would have preferred to see Jakub Dobeš there, but he's going to get to start tonight in Colorado. If he doesn't, what the hell is he doing here? So Dobeš to start in Colorado tonight. Let's talk about that, right? Then you have the mess that is Vancouver. They're at the Bell Center on Monday at 7:30. The dreaded 7:30 puck drop, which means probably closer to 8 because that's going to be, an Amazon Prime game, okay? Then they're off the rest of the week when they play at Washington. And then it's Dallas, Utah, Dallas again, a home and home with the Stars, Maple Leafs, Rangers, Lightning, Red Wings, Devils, Jets, Wild. Hello, January. Are you kidding me? That is a brutal schedule. Like, the Montreal Canadiens, through the schedule makers, had a little bit of a gift. Let's be honest. Had a little bit of a gift. And, I spent a lot of time. I think I'm pretty good on, whenever I post stuff on the YouTube channel, I have a pretty good reply rate. I like to reply. I want to be courteous. I want to be respectful. If you took the time to watch my stuff, comment on my stuff, chances are I'm going to write back. And the amount of people that talk about, but the Canadiens beat the lowly Buffalo Sabres. Oh, who cares? I have to remind a lot of people a lot of the time, before the Canadiens got Patrick Laine back, they were one of the worst teams in hockey, and they've moved on from that. They're no longer in the conversation of one of the worst teams in hockey. We're talking about them, today, being in the mix, 3 points out. And had they beaten Chicago, they'd be right on the heels of Ottawa, 1 point back. But instead, it's 3. So it's not like the Canadiens were 3rd in the Atlantic Division, 4th in the conference, and feasting on the week of the National Hockey League's teams. No, the Canadiens were, arguably, for the first 7 weeks of the season, either 30th or 31st or 29th in the overall NHL standings. So let's get that argument out of the way. It just doesn't hold any water. And now with the team, beating quality opposition, showing much more consistent good habits, I think it's fair to want to expect a little bit more because they have delivered more. And when they fall and don't live up to expectations and seem to lose their way a little bit, and again, maybe I'm being dramatic, the Canadiens had 40 shots in Chicago on Friday night and scored twice. That's one consistent thing this team has shown. They struggled to score goals, even though they had gone on a little bit of run and felt better about themselves in late December. But the finishing touch remains an issue, which takes me, I want to talk about Juraj Slafkovsky for a second, okay? So Juraj Slafkovsky, is on 21 points through 35 games. He's on 4 goals and 17 assists and plays about 16.42 a night. And what does that all add up to? It's adding up to a 45-point campaign for Juraj Slafkovsky. And yeah, no goals in his last 5, 3 assists sporadically spread throughout the Montreal Canadiens, who have gone 3-2 in their last 5 games. And I understand he's 20 years old. But I thought when you're young, I thought it was easy to be a little bit reckless. And I don't mean that in an irresponsible way, because that's one way to get your butt planted in the press box for the foreseeable future. But remember when you were 20? Remember when you were 21? Remember how fearless you were? Remember how you would throw caution to the wind and jump off that second-story balcony because your ankles and your knees and your back could take it? Like, I want Juraj Slafkovsky to go out there and be young, man. Be young. Have fun. You know, like, I honestly think this is the drawback, I believe, of a young player not getting time to develop in a lower league, especially for a European player that comes to North America and is asked to play a very serious game in a very serious league, that is the NHL. And, you know, the Canadiens made a decision with Slafkovsky to develop him in real time because they felt he had earned the right to break camp as a Canadian, and that's their decision, okay? But what I see from a 20-year-old, former number 1 overall pick, I see a guy who I think he has got a great attitude. I don't think it's an attitude problem. Knows how to laugh at himself, can laugh at others. It's very good. He's got the right attitude. I don't think he takes himself that seriously all of the time. But I see a guy who's in his head, who doesn't want to play recklessly because he doesn't know how to play controlled recklessness. Doesn't know how to do it. And this is the drawback for me. The drawback is watching a 20-year-old kind of suffer a little bit. You know, long reaches. The guy's, 6'4", man? He's well over 200 pounds. He's a gargantuan-sized human being. Would I like to see him use that size and leverage a lot more often? Hell yeah. Why doesn't he do it? I don't know. Does he know how to do it? Does he know how to do that in a controlled way? Probably not. And that's why you see a controlled version of Juraj. You see a reaching out with the long reach Juraj as opposed to controlled recklessness. I'm looking for controlled recklessness. Can you do that at 20 in the NHL? I don't think so. And I think that's where, in my opinion, the Montreal Canadiens made a mistake. And luckily, I think for the organization that they have a player that can absorb it. Like I said, I think Slafkovsky's got a winning attitude. I really do. And I think that his teammates like him. I think he's respected in the room. But it's just not enough. It's just not enough. And maybe the timing will work itself out. Maybe it will. In that it's, he's 20 years old. He got his contract extension, and when the team is ready, maybe in next year or 2 years, to take the next step, that Slafkovsky's game too will be in sync with the team's competitiveness. But it's a guess, and I have to think the organization is probably thinking along those lines too, that they're looking at the timing of it all, and, we could probably talk about Jake Evans in that light too, about timing. 28 years old, soon to be UFA if he gets there, making 1.7 on the cap, knowing that he's having a season, shooting the lights out, career year, on pace for over 50 points. Does the timing in your head make sense to lock in Jake Evans for 4 or 5 years? This is his chance at a contract, at a lifetime contract that he's worked his entire life for, to get that one contract, because I don't think Jake Evans is going to double dip in the UFA pool. I really don't. This is his chance, I think, to sock a financial home run. And I don't know if the timing is right. Let's dip into the chat for a second. Let's see what's going on with the chat today. Lots of comments today. January sync to the playoffs. It's a tough schedule. I went through the schedule already. Rick Springhetti, what's up, Rick? Rick's a proud member of the channel. Let's shout Rick out. So is Steph Howard. Steph Howard, thank you so much for joining and being a member of the Sean Starr Show. You too could be a member of the Sean Starr Show for less than $3 a month. You get early access to all my content, members-only chat, and members-only replies, which we could do here, and of course special shout outs to my favorite guys and girls right here on the channel, Rick Springhetti and Steph Howard. Rick Springhetti says last night's game has the spice level of low-fat mayonnaise. Disgusting. Kidding aside, not the best game, but follow elite teams and you will see once in a while they don't have the best game. It happens. I get it. It does happen. Rick with a grounded, feet firmly planted on the ground approach to last night's game. And yeah, I'm guilty of being a little extra as a fan today because I believe that this team is showing really good habits. I really do. I see it. I see fundamental hockey. I see balance. I see better scoring. And I see a team that gets up for the opposition. And that's why I think this was a terrible loss. Because as much as I wanted this team to be better, I think they're still immature and they still have a lot of room to grow. It always could be worse, everybody. You could be the Buffalo Sabres. Steph Howard, what's up? Happy New Year. Happy New Year, by the way, to everybody. Let's get that out of the way. Let's not forget, this is a 13 or 14 game span here. Sabres have done great in the past when young teams over 15 game span. It's interesting too, right? Because I think what I was looking for this season with the Canadiens, yes, growth from last year, growth into this year, but I really, more than anything else, I really want this team to play meaningful games in late Feb, early and through March. I want these games to matter. I don't want to have that narrative like we did back in the day with Alex Galchenyuk's 30-goal season with Montreal. Garbage goals. Some people were talking about that narrative last year with Juraj Slafkovsky on the first line with all the points he had and how well he was doing in the second half with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. Garbage points. Team was out of it, competitively speaking. I want that narrative to be gone. Full stop. And that's where the team, I guess, is still struggling to find its own identity. And to Steph Howard's point, right? Buffalo won a lot of games down the stretch when I don't know where the pressure was at, but the pressure mounted and they still won games. I'd like to see the Montreal Canadiens find a way to keep that balance and not let a loss like Chicago affect them. And it's a tough one because they're right back at it at Colorado tonight, live on TSN 690. Happy New Year, everybody. Neil, Josh Anderson plays with controlled recklessness. Dude, Neil, Pat McAfee clap. Neil, good grief, Charlie Brown is a great freaking point, my man. Thank you for that, Neil. You are not wrong, my man. Because, and I think I've been consistent on Josh Anderson for a minute. Josh Anderson has been reassigned. Remember last year we were talking about Josh Anderson going, it felt like 60 games between goals? Couldn't score. And Martin St. Louis, I don't know how many people are aware of this, but this actually happened. Martin St. Louis kind of took Josh Anderson, took him aside, and they had some together moments to the point where it's almost like Martin St. Louis made Josh Anderson a little bit of a personal pet project. And I'm going to explain that. Martin St. Louis deserves a lot of credit for the version of Josh Anderson you're seeing today, where I believe Josh Anderson has been reassigned. Skate fast, play hard, play good defense. If the goals come, great. If they don't, it's okay. We got you. We're a deep team. We'll pick you up. We're not looking at you to drop 25 goals, Anderson. We want you to play hard, play smart, play responsible. And I think it took arguably half a season and then a full off season for Josh Anderson to get that through, to work on those habits, and to redefine himself as an NHL player. And I love Neil's point. Controlled recklessness. When you watch Josh Anderson, who has one of the fastest speed bursts in the NHL, and that includes Connor McDavid, Anderson is up there as one of the fastest out-of-the-gate guys in hockey today, end of sentence. And you see him play responsibly. You see him with controlled recklessness. Hell, you've even seen him throw fists a few times this season. Ask Jacob Trouba what it's like to dance with Josh Anderson. So thank you, Neil, for bringing up what I believe is the perfect comp. Someone that Juraj Slafkovsky can look at and model himself after with a better finishing touch than Josh Anderson. Costa, Tikane Sere, Happy New Year. Just when I thought we were heading in a winning direction, they pulled back into being in this direction. Now, it's a terrible loss. It's a terrible loss because, like Costa, like me, you got your hopes up. I got my hopes up, wanting to see this team win 4 in a row going into Colorado, saying, oh, we won 4 in a row. You look at that Colorado game in Colorado at Mile High, you're thinking, okay, scheduled loss, no problem. Chicago on Friday night in Chi-Town was a scheduled win. It was a scheduled win. You know, if the Canadiens were the Buffalo Sabres and just crap the bed 24/7, then I can understand. Loss in Chicago, bad team. The Canadiens are not a bad team. They're not. And I think the team we're watching that is 3-5 points out of a playoff spot, they're 3 points out of a wild card today, that's the team. And getting better. So that's what makes the Friday loss to Chicago so frustrating, man. Just so frustrating. We'll talk about the 49ers, Costa, don't worry. Rick Springhetti in the chat, what's up? Anthony Marcotte of TVA reported that Kyle Dubas, Bill Armstrong, and Don Sweeney were at the Laval Rocket game on Friday. May not mean much, but not sure how other GMs go to AHL games. It's funny because at the beginning of the season, I took some heat because I had found out that Kyle Dubas had been to Montreal 5 times. Okay, this is the beginning of the season. Okay, 5 times he'd been at the Bell Center in a scouting capacity 5 times, and the Canadiens, I think, had played 8 home games, if memory serves me right. So he had been to almost as many games as the Canadiens had played at home. Right? I mean, that's weird. Why is he doing that? You know, is something brewing? Is something happening? Right? And so we try to put those pieces of the puzzle together. And then, yes, he's here because he's been in Montreal for a while. He's part of the Hockey Canada 4 Nations. Maybe he's looking at Nick Suzuki, looking at Sam Montembeault, blah, 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 blah. But now here we are again with the reports of Kyle Dubas sniffing around the Laval Rocket and wondering what's going on, as the Montreal Canadiens might be close to making another move because Pittsburgh, just like Montreal, is also kind of in the mix. The Pittsburgh Penguins, my friends, are on the come up. They've won 5 of their last 10, even though they've suffered back-to-back losses. But like Ottawa, the Penguins have 40 points. That right now is the best point total to get you the second wildcard spot. So are the Penguins ready to do something? My gut instinct tells me yes, they are. Because when you've got the roster that looks like the Penguins roster does, yeah, you got to be doing something. You got to be doing something to make sure you get Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Erik Karlsson back into the playoffs. John Smith thought that Doby should have gotten the first game of the back-to-back. I totally agree. I think even last week in the interviews I did with Sean Campbell, you can find it on my YouTube page, I think we both had Doby starting against Chicago, Montembeault getting the Colorado game tonight at 7 o'clock. John Smith, thanks for the compliments. Happy New Year, John. I really appreciate that. And just like everybody else, you know, you get those special shout-outs like Rick Springhetti and Steph Howard did. Why? Because they're exclusive members of the Sean Starr Show. You get access to member perks for less than $3 a month. I got loyalty badges. I can give you my dog, Hank. I made some little emojis with Hank. You get member shout-outs, priority replies to comments from members, early access to new videos, member-only live chats, and member-only live streams right here on the Sean Starr Show. And hit me up in the comments if growing your YouTube channel is something that you're trying to do. And if you're looking for tidbits, I think I can help you because I managed to kind of put this together on the fly, all by myself, solo mission style, learning hardware, learning software, learning Photoshop, video editing, which I'd never done before. I'm a radio guy, and it took me less than 5 weeks to fully monetize. That means 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 cumulative watch hours, and I did it in about 5 weeks, and I can help you get there too and get those direct deposits from YouTube Canada. Yeah. They're going to pay you. They pay you based off of and I'll get into all of it because I have a pretty good understanding. I like to joke with my friends that I've attended YouTube University. So Habs and Avalanche at 7 o'clock live on TSN 690 tonight. So hold on here. Rick Springhetti, think Dubas is looking at Joshua Ottawa. My understanding is Joshua Ottawa, like a few other guys, from what I've been told, Joshua Ottawa is not an untouchable player. The leading scorer for the Laval Rocket, by the way. Make sure you look at my last video I did that was published on Friday. Me and Sean Campbell, who's the voice of the Laval Rocket on TSN 690, dip our toes into the Laval Rocket waters, talk about Logan Mailloux and his relationship with Coach Pascal Vincent, and how Logan Mailloux struggling with some confidence, and the belief being that maybe the Alex Carrier trade impacted Logan Mailloux's psychology a little bit to the point where he'd been demoted, taken off that first wave of the power play for Laval. Frigolo, Slafkovsky has no particular skills. He ain't fast, has no shot, isn't physical. His game is average at best. I mean, that's harsh, man. That's like he was the number one overall pick, not because, we're not talking about Zach Hyman's dad here. Juraj Slafkovsky is not the Slovakian version of Zach Hyman's dad. Like, he didn't buy the number one pick. Didn't give Gary Bettman, I don't know what their banknotes are called in Slovakia, but like he didn't give him the equivalent of $5 million Canadian and said, make my son number one, Like, the guy's got size. The guy's got, I believe, a high hockey IQ. What we're watching is someone that made the team right out of Europe, and the organization made a purposeful decision to develop him while he plays in the NHL. And that's why we talk about it all the time, man. Like, AHL seasoning is very important for a lot of guys. Not everybody comes in the league as Austin Matthews, Sidney Crosby, or Connor McDavid, So, yeah, I personally find that kind of harsh, but to each their own, You wanted the Canadiens. I wanted the Canadiens to win in Chicago. So, I'm just so happy. Before I move on to the NFL, I'm just so happy that the lighting is good. My stream connection has been excellent this entire time. I haven't seen, normally you guys are pretty good to jump on me when the stream is crap, Chris Hansen, Slafkovsky was the first pick in the worst draft in 30 years. What are we doing? What are we doing here? What are we doing? Why are you crapping on Juraj Slafkovsky? Why are we talking? Why do we have to do a what about? What's happening here to this market? Like, he's not a bust. Let's not pretend Juraj Slafkovsky is a bust. Stop reacting like he's a bust. He's 20 years old. He's got room to grow. Yes, he doesn't light the lamp like Sidney Crosby does as a number one overall pick. Like, I've gotten it out of my head that he was chosen number one overall. Okay, and he doesn't play like Crosby or McDavid. So, like, let's slow down here. Let's dull the knives on carving up Juraj Slafkovsky, who's been back on the top line and has looked a little bit better. But as I talked about, he's not immune from criticism, and I'm far from ever referring to him as a bust, and I'm not doing that now, and I'm not doing that tomorrow. Can he learn to play with size? I think he can. It's just taking a minute. And that's what it brings me back to my point. I'm going to repeat myself because I think people need me to repeat myself. Juraj Slafkovsky should have been sent to Laval. He should have been playing a lot of hockey with the Laval Rocket. Full stop. Like, it's okay to admit that today. Like, yes, it's an indictment that the organization perhaps made a mistake, as they did with Jonathan Kovacevic. I was complimentary of that, the fact that Ken Hughes recovered from that mistake and a bad judgment call. But Juraj Slafkovsky should be learning to use his size, playing recklessly, getting consequences for playing recklessly for the Laval Rocket. That's where he should have been. So he can get that confidence, work those kinks out, learn what works, learn what doesn't, learn how to recover. And maybe then I would get what I've wanted for a long time. Is Slafkovsky to slowly become his own man. And I'm not asking him to drive a line, but to perhaps be a man on a line. And right now, he's a complementary piece on the number one line with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. But it doesn't mean that he's a bust. It doesn't mean that, like, you got to talk about the draft where he was chosen number one over. Yeah, but. Come on now. And yes, I do have some time for Emil Heineman. Love the fact that he's on 10 goals. Love the fact that he's, third in rookie scoring, And it's interesting, too, that, You watch Emil Heineman, and Emil Heineman has been playing on one of the more consistent lines on the team all season long. I'd like to see him play up, but he's playing well because he's in that nice little role. But again, the organization looks at Juraj Slafkovsky and the expectations of being a number one pick, and up the lineup he goes. And back with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. And that's it here. Ghislain. Salut, Ghislain. Comment ça va aujourd'hui, mon gars? Ghislain Laframboise. What's up, Raspberry? Juraj Slafkovsky, not a Connor McDavid or a Crosby, but he got size and skill to be in the NHL. I think that's a very grounded approach. It's a very grounded approach. Yes, he does have NHL skill sets, no doubt. But learning the game, that's where I believe the organization, it's too late. You can't turn back the clock. You're not sending him into Laval, obviously. It's not what I'm saying. But I think if they could do it all over again, would they still make the same decision? More comments coming in. Rick Springhetti. I think Slafkovsky is still young mentally. Doesn't have the wisdom, the experience. And I guess that's also what I'm kind of talking about. Getting those reps in at a lower level of hockey. In my head, makes more sense today. But again, now I'm playing Monday morning quarterback. I'm not sending Slafkovsky to the AHL. He's not a bust. But I think in hindsight, yes, I think we probably could talk about that for a second. And yes, Heineman is doing great. Thank you, Rick. 10 goals, third in rookie scoring. And he's put in a position, again, more credit to Martin St. Louis. Emil Heineman, to me, is being put in a position to be successful, right? You could talk about matchups and how Emil Heineman and his line generally get the better of those matchups. And he's getting rewarded with the points. So Canadiens lose their third... it's their second 3-game winning streak of the season. It could have been 4, should have been 4. Disappointing loss in Chicago, despite firing 40 pucks. Got to finish, man. Got to finish. You want to be a good team. You want to be in the mix. You got to take it. You got to learn how to play harder. When you're struggling to finish, you have to figure out another way to play harder. Get those nasty, ugly, dirty goals. They don't count for style, but they count on the scoreboard. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for all the comments. Thank you for that. I want to take a break from hockey here for a second and quickly get into the National Football League. I've got some picks for you for Week 18. We have arrived, my friends. Week 18 of the NFL's regular season. What a damn shame. Saquon Barkley is not going to get the chance to break the record against his former team, the New York Giants. So that kind of sucks. So let's get into Week 18. Let's start this afternoon at 4:30, where it's the 3-13 Cleveland Browns playing at the 11-5 Baltimore Ravens. I mean, the poor Brownies. Poor Browns. How else do you explain why Cleveland is on a nationally televised game when they're probably going to get embarrassed today? The Browns are averaging 5.3 points per game over their last 3 weeks. Guess what? Now they have to play a Ravens team that's averaging over 30 points per game. They are the third highest scoring team in the National Football League. The Ravens scored more points, 17 as a matter of fact, in the first 2 quarters of their last game than Cleveland have scored in their past 3 games combined. Okay? So let me say that again. The Ravens have scored 17 points in the first 2 quarters of their last game. The Browns have scored a total of 16 points over their last 3 games combined. I love that number. And that's why, my friends, Baltimore is favored by 17.5 points. And that tells me the Ravens, my friends, are going to win and cover. So we are going to lay the 17.5 points for Baltimore. If you're looking at team totals, okay, I think the Baltimore Ravens are going to drop the 35 points. So if you're looking at team total points, I would go over like the 30 spot. I wouldn't be surprised even if Baltimore can get to 40 on this Cleveland team that will be in full mail-it-in mode. The Brownies, 17.5 point dogs. Another game for you to look at today is the 8-8 Cincinnati Bengals at the 10-6 Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, again, when we look at the NFL scheduling, yes, the Bengals were flexed into this game. And I'm pointing this out because it makes them the first team in league history to be forced to play 5 road primetime games in one season. It has not happened before, but it happens tonight at 8 o'clock when Cincinnati plays at Pittsburgh. Joe Burrow, has been fantastic. He's playing like this hybrid version of Joe Montana and Tom Brady. He's been absolutely incredible. We're talking about a Bengals team that has played 8 games where he's averaged 331 passing yards and almost 3.5 touchdowns per game on average. Now, if Burrow throws for like 360 against the Steelers, he could become just the 10th quarterback in league history to throw for 5,000 yards in a single season. That's incredible. I think it's incredible, and I think he could do it. I really do. So when we talk about where the Steelers are, I think the Steelers are probably going to keep several key players out of this game, because if the Ravens win, the Ravens are going to beat Cleveland. They're going to whoop Cleveland's butt today. This game loses a lot of luster for the Steelers. Why? Because they won't be able to win the AFC North. So the Ravens are going to beat Cleveland today, and that zaps momentum for the Steelers because they're out of winning the North Division. But a win over the Bengals would clinch the 5 seed and a date with Houston. So there's still something on the line for Pittsburgh. On the other hand, a loss by the Steelers to the Bengals would likely mean a wild card matchup with the Baltimore Ravens. So if the Bengals win, they need the Dolphins and Broncos to both lose if they want to make the playoffs. Is it going to happen? Bengals win this game. They score 34 points and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I like them to win. So check out all your odds for that game if that's what you're doing. Bengals win in a must-win. Joe Burrow is the man. So that's the Saturday schedule. I'll have more NFL picks for you tomorrow, where you can join me live on the Sean Starr Show. Nothing but Montreal Canadiens reaction to Colorado tonight, and a dip again into Week 18 of the National Football League's final regular season weekend of the year. Now, Steph Howard, if the Bengals make the playoffs, does Burrow skyrocket and pass Allen for the MVP? That is a fascinating question. I love the debate of how many people already have Joe Burrow as an MVP. You don't make the playoffs, you're not the MVP. I don't care what you say. Rick Springhetti, Sean, as a Saints fan, I'm happy that I can at least poke fun at teams like the what? Rick, you're taking a shot at the Chicago Bears. Rick, is that necessary to take a shot at the bleeping Chicago Bears, brother? What is wrong with you, you son of a... I still love you, Rick. Don't worry. So there you go. Be back tomorrow as I'll react live to the Canadiens and Avalanche game tonight on TSN 690 and more NFL picks for Week 18. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great Saturday. Happy New Year. Make sure to check back here on YouTube live tomorrow for a reaction to the Habs and Avalanche and Week 18 of the NFL's regular season coming to an end. And members only. Happen. Rick with a grounded, feet firmly planted on the ground approach to last night's game. And